fear of public speaking. Again, this is one of the major ones. According to Google keyword search, this is the second most terrifying fear of them all. Alright, so how do you deal with it? How can you solve a fear of public speaking? Well, we have our techniques, don't we? First of all, intellectualize it. How can you intellectualize this sort of thing? Again, try to think for yourself. It's not that difficult. You can tell him that the people that watch him, they don't really care, they are interested in themselves, they don't really judge him that severely. The only one who's judging him so much is himself. He's the only one who's judging himself. The other people, they don't really care. They are more interested in themselves. They are interested in their cell phones. If they don't enjoy the performance, then they'll just think of something else or do whatever. It's not very likely that they would throw tomatoes at him or yell boo. It's not very, very likely. Alright, so some people, when they use their imagination is almost working against them because they begin to imagine like the worst case scenario. And maybe for public speaking, it could be, I don't know, booing or throwing tomatoes or whatever, vegetables or whatever. So talk with the person and hear whatever craziness his imagination has created. I really enjoy that personally. I mean, it's kind of fun to hear all the weird things people imagine when they are talking about fears, their own personal fears. So for our current example, if the guy tells you, I'm afraid that I'll be booed out of stage or whatever, so again, intellectualize it. Tell him, listen, it's not very likely. They don't really care, they are nice, whatever is necessary for him to understand that sort of thing. Again, usually some fears could also be due to some other fears. Alright, it could also happen. So for example, it could be that this person is afraid of public speaking because he's afraid of what other people think, for example. Or he's afraid of failure, for example. So that's why you need to talk to the person and go deep and deep and deep as you can until you realize and recognize the fear. Alright, and in our case, it's the fear of public speaking. So intellectualizing it is one option. Another option is, of course, what? Gradually and slowly confronting it. Again, similar to flying, it's technically a bit difficult to gradually do the process of public speaking. You can say maybe that you can first publicly speak in front of one person, and then two people, and then 10, and then 50, and then 100, and then 1,000. That could seem as gradually confronting the fear. The only problem with that idea is that it's not true. From personal experience, I can tell you that public speaking is a bit different than what you would expect. The reality is that speaking to a smaller group is much, much scarier than a very large group, because when you talk to 1,000 people, it's usually black and you usually don't even see any of them or most of them, and it's just an ocean of darkness in front of you. Especially if you have those projectors into your eyes, you sometimes don't even see anything. But when you talk to a few people, when you talk to, let's say, 10 people, you can actually see their faces. You can actually see very clearly what every single person in the audience is thinking. If whoever is noticing you, whoever is dealing with the phone or whatever, you can see all of that very clearly. That's why the idea of doing it gradually by having more and more and more people is maybe not the best idea, although it's possible. So what do we do when we can't do it gradually like we want to do? We use our imagination, right? So again, use the imagination before a performance. If you feel anxiety or much before a performance, just think about it, imagine the process. Really try to imagine it as vivid as humanly possible, either for yourself or the person that you want to help. And really try to notice where is the problem. And when you notice it, for example, for some people, it could be that moment when you just see the audience for the first time. That could be a moment of a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear. So notice it, recognize it, and deal with it by intellectualizing or by breathing or whatever. All right, so that's that alternative of dealing with it, basically to gradually and slowly confront the fear. The last option is to associate with the fear with something positive. So how can we do that? Again, use your imagination. Maybe you can, I don't know, have give the person, if it's like a kid or something, maybe give him a gift or something before the performance or after the performance. If he knows that if he does a great performance, he will get I don't know, a lollipop or something, then it could help maybe. And again, you can give yourself a little gift as well. It's not only for children. You can do whatever. It's your personal journey, and you choose what sort of a thing is positive for you and how you can associate it with this fear. I want to give you another example of anchoring if you find it hard to think of something. So in this particular example, what we can do is when you have like a feeling of a lot of energy, because when you need to perform, you need to have a lot of energy. So if you have a situation in which you are very, very high in energy and you feel very positive and everything is awesome, if you have this situation, you can do some sort of weird thing, weird behavior. For example, right now I'm feeling great, so I can do something like that. This gesture is something that I don't usually do. It's a bit odd, a bit strange of a gesture. It's not something that I do on a day-to-day basis. So next time, if I feel, I don't know, I feel upset, or I feel like before performing, before my next video, I feel a bit down and I want to return to a higher state, I can just do this gesture again, and this gesture is anchored, is associated with the feeling of awesomeness that I have right now. Alright, you see, so in a similar way, before performing, before going upstage, or before publicly speaking, just do the gesture that you already created and encoded to a positive feeling, and that's how you can use this technique to eventually remove all fear.